sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to My Sister's a Therapist. My name is Virginia Jones, and I'm a stand-up comedian. This is a podcast that I host with my sister, Laura Ryan, who is a therapist.
Hello, I'm Laura Ryan, but my main credit is sister to wit warrior, Virginia Jones.
Laura, we just celebrated a very special, not anniversary quite yet, but we have just published our 50th episode. We have now been recording for a year. Our anniversary was yesterday.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary to you. We did get each other anniversary gifts, and we thought it would be fun to open them right here on the pod. I mean, it's kind of live. It's live to us. It's not live to you, but you can only get so much in life.
Virginia, you can go first.
Now, if you know my sister, as some of you do, she loves a sweatshirt, and sometimes a custom printed sweatshirt. Is this something that, this is a custom item. No one else in the world has this except for me.
Well, except for me, because I also have one now.
We also have one. We have matching hoodies that say, Billy Ray Valentine Capricorn.
Mm-hmm.
For anyone who's still wondering, this is a quote from one of our favorite movies, Trading Places. It's great. There's a great image of Eddie Murphy on it. Thank you very much.
I want to also note, my sister loves a hooded black sweatshirt.
I do love a hooded black sweatshirt.
I got you both.
This has been made to my custom specifications, and it's just getting to be hoodie season in Portland, so it's quite perfect.
I'm just going to say this before I open it.
Okay.
This feels like a pair of hair cutting scissors that I have. This is the firm box that it comes in.
I see.
Did you think I needed a haircut for this?
I did not get you hair cutting scissors.
Okay. This better be as good as a Billy Ray Valentine sweatshirt.
Well, it's also customized, and no one else has one.
Okay, so I got an MSAT October 4th, 2024. Happy 1-year anniversary to My Sister's a Therapist, the #1 podcast by a therapist and a comedian who are sisters. Accurate.
Yes.
This is very sweet. Thank you.
It's a Lucite award with like a fake marble in it. It's cute. It's good looking. It's got green and gold in it because Laura likes green.
Mm-hmm.
And it is commemorating and you can put it up on your mantle. You can show it. You can put it up in your office.
Oh my gosh. Maybe I will put it up in my office. That would be really funny. This was an award that I gave to myself.
No, this is an award my sister gave me.
That's true. You know what? I think I will put this in my office. That's really funny.
Because most people won't even look at it.
No, they'll just go,
she's got
one of her many awards. Well, I have my Hypnotist of the Year award, and now I have this.
Yeah,
now
2 awards.
Virginia, what's our topic this week?
As we move from brat summer into cuffing season, and I can't believe I know we've touched on this, but we haven't really talked about it before. I would like to talk about dating apps.
Oh, wow. How great they are and how they've really brought people together.
Yeah, the topic is, why don't they work? Why don't dating apps work?
Why do they not work?
Okay. As you know, I am as old as the mountains. I am older than the dirt underneath a giant's feet. I am Methuselah. I am a 500-year-old vampire, and I live in Hillsborough.
And I'm 2.5 years behind you.
You are a 497.5-year-old vampire.
Got it.
My first random dating experience was personal ads. And personal ads.
Oh, wow. You really are old.
I know. I put out an ad in the Dallas Observer because they had a section in the back for horny people.
I wish you still had a copy of it. That would be hilarious.
When people responded to it, and they responded by calling into a phone number, I would call and pick up voicemail messages. And so you would hear what they sounded like right away, which is kind of cool. Oh, I'm into Blade Runner, and I'm into The Cure, and like all the things that I'm into. P.S. all of exactly the same things I'm into right now. But most people responded to the fact that I said I was a redhead. And I'm not, of course, a redhead in the natural way. But I did go on a couple dates. The adorable thing about personal ads is you would list out your interests and kind of what you looked like. If you both really like Chinese food and Wim Wenders films, that's enough to build a relationship on.
That was my high school dating life.
Right. Commonalities. But of course, what you're really looking for is someone who reminds you of your dad. Then from personal ads, computer dating was happening at the time, but it was very much like computer match dating. And it was matching based on, I am this tall and this old, and I like these things, and I am looking for these things. It was the next version of the matchmaker who had the box full of 3x5 cards with people's details on them.
Well, and also to sound old, it's more of like a Sears catalog type of situation. I remember my therapist, who was actually pretty old,
Right.
she said that's how she met her husband, was through a personal ad in the newspaper. They had agreed to each wear a red carnation on their shirt. And she said she walked in and she saw him and she wanted desperately to run away
Because why?
because he wasn't what she was thinking,
Right.
her preference
It's like
was.
you would have no idea what the person actually looked like.
Right.
You would have some amount of self-reporting, but we all think we're cute to some degree.
Right.
Our
And
moms
so,
tell us that we are.
well, she said that her normal thing was to walk into a room, lock eyes with a hottie, and madly fall in love. And it was always a nightmare. The person was always not good for her. But she said with him, her gut reaction was, get me out of here. This is not it. And she's been married to him for 60 years now.
That's really funny. I did see TikTok yesterday where a woman had a first date and said, I put makeup on. I hope it's good. The end of the TikTok is like, no, it wasn't good. I met him at a restaurant. We agreed we were going in. We walked in. He said, can I step outside and talk to you for a second? And she said, yes. And he said, I'm sorry, I'm just not feeling it. And then they just didn't have the date. What does that mean?
What that means is that I have a blueprint in my mind of what my ideal partner looks like, sounds like, feels like. You didn't meet my fake criteria that I made up for myself.
On my first app experience, I think we were both on OkCupid when we left our respective marriages. It was funny because sometimes we would see the same people or we would pass each other profiles, especially of people that I knew in real life. I don't think Potato listens, but we did talk about him.
We talked about Potato pretty extensive.
Quite a bit. A real cutie who I know in real life. OkCupid was kind of an extension of personal ads. You would write like a charming essay. I do a joke about it. We didn't meet randomly matching. We met the way God intended through a quiz.
Right.
I had almost a religious belief in the algorithm in the quiz. If I matched 98% with someone, I was like, we're going to have everything in common. This is going to be smooth sailing. And it wasn't, because all it meant was that politically they were on the same page as me. And we had joined the app at the same time. We had not only answered the questions the same way, but we had answered the same assortment of questions. And the assortment was always changing.
That's right. There would be like this set of 50 questions if you joined on September 1st. But if you joined on October 1st, it would be other questions.
Yeah, because people were always submitting questions and questions were coming out. I did know if I was under 50% match with somebody, it meant that there was something really fundamental that we did not have in common, like guns or politics or something like that.
Our basic values, there was a big difference somewhere in there.
You've got a couple pictures of yourself. You've got a couple essays. You've got maybe some quizzes you've taken. And the cool thing about that was if you were not the best looking guy in the world, you could be very funny. One of my friends had a bit from his ad that said, I believe in ghosts. You can do it, ghosts. I believe in you. I thought that was good because it wasn't just a contest of who's the hottest.
Do you remember that app, Hot or Not?
Right.
For anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about. So Hot or Not was sort of the precursor to Tinder, where you would post pictures of yourself and people would rate them according to their hotness. And in fact, for a period of time, I would do Hot or Not and OkCupid to decide which would be my best photos for OkCupid.
Interesting. She was sciencing it.
I was sciencing.
Basically, on Hot or Not, the most porny looking women really rose to the top. And the same was true of Goth or Not.
I wasn't even aware of Goth or Not. With OkCupid, there was space for wit and charm and humor. I really did feel like they actually cared about people getting to know each other.
All of these methods are just ways to do the same thing. They're ways to meet people you don't know, open up the possibility that you could date them. Tinder originated in WeHo in 2012. As Laura said, it was very much based on a Hot or Not format.
Yeah.
So they gamified it on purpose. It's set up like a deck of playing cards. They created the infinite scroll where no matter where you are, most of the time you can just keep going through people. If you are in a very small community or if you have very stringent requirements, you can sometimes get to the end of the matches and it's always a shock, like, oh, that's all there is.
And also for the listener, WeHo means West Hollywood.
Oh, yeah. I didn't date a lot on Tinder because as exciting as it was to match with people, I found that it was not a good use of time. You spent hours and hours going through basically pictures of different people's abs.
Maybe we were on a different Tinder.
I was in Los Angeles, California.
That's true. I was looking at chubby dads over here.
I was on Tinder and OkCupid at the same time for a while. It started to feel weird that someone could just write me on OkCupid without matching me first. Like, just some rando?
To me, that is the gift of Tinder. That's why I emigrated to Tinder and then just stayed at Tinder, because I don't enjoy the experience of being constantly harangued by a person that I'm not interested in dating.
And there got to be really weird rules of online dating. Even if you like someone in life, I would actually like a person that I knew in life. And instead of telling them I like them or making any sort of a move, I would just go through my local Tinder hoping to find them.
That tracks.
How absurd that I wouldn't tell a person in life that I liked them.
I remember Emily, our sister, telling us about a night out. She had a night out with some girlfriends. They were talking to a random man, and he said, wow, this is crazy that you guys are actually talking to me. I'm not used to women talking to me in public places because they haven't vetted me yet.
They haven't looked at my picture and my picture of myself and the dog that isn't mine.
It's not just my picture. It's also, are you the Antichrist? Are you married and looking for extra on the side? Are you poly? I want to know those facts. So I do kind of understand why you would go home and swipe, because it's more information and it's also clearer to you whether or not the person is available. Like, that was the problem in high school. I never knew who was available or who wasn't.
It's embarrassing to say, hey, I really like you, and have them say, I've been in a relationship for 6 years. Her name is Samantha. I can't believe you're talking to me about this.
She lives in Canada.
The fact is, you may feel safer connecting with someone on an app, but 42% of Tinder users are either married or they're in relationships. So you're not safer.
Okay, I'm going to share this with you for nothing. One year, I went out with some girlfriends, and it happened to be Valentine's night. And I remember saying to them, okay, 100% of the men who are out tonight are single.
If they weren't single, they wouldn't be out alone on Valentine's. They would be with their partners.
I met a handsome German guy. We made out. He asked me back to his place. We were making out more. And he said, hey, before things go any further, I want you to know that I have a girlfriend. And
Before
I was like,
he showed you his bratwurst.
And I said, okay, does she live in Germany? You have a long distance and you guys have an agreement. What's going on? And then he said, well, no, she lives in Hyde Park. And I was like, is she me? Because I live in
Hyde Park.
Turned out she wasn't me. She was another woman in Austin who he was in a relationship with, but on Valentine's night, he was out hooking up with chicks. I'm still befuddled by that.
That's true. There's absolutely no guarantee, but there's no guarantee either way.
At least I know that this person is open to dating.
Yeah. One of the things that doesn't work about Tinder, the best you feel about someone, the most excited you are about them, is when you match with them and you get that dopamine hit of matching with a stranger.
Yes.
I found someone attractive and they have found me attractive. And that's part of why dating is very difficult on Tinder, because then you enter the talking phase. I do not have the patience to put a lot of energy into communicating with a stranger. When I was dating, I would say, after we had a couple exchanges, cards on the table, do you want to meet or don't you? I have another customer. I have stuff to do.
I guess for me, I have to continue the weed out process. I don't date now, but when I was dating, I like to take about a week to see what you're talking about. What are you doing? Do you have friends? Are you a serial killer? Do you seem like a serial killer? Have you ever taken anyone's life? And stuff like that.
But how adorable that you think that you can sense that about somebody. That's the first thing they say about serial killers is he seemed like a very normal guy.
But I have caught people in stuff. And gratefully, I didn't waste the time or the lip gloss to go on the date.
And my argument is, let me get in front of you in real life, because what we're doing when we're talking is we're building a parasocial relationship. That means that when I go on a date with you, I might feel guilted into finding you attractive or interesting when I don't.
I have definitely done that before.
You've built up a person in your head. You've filled in all the parts you don't know with stuff you like. And then there's a real person sitting in front of you. And you could have everything in the world in common with this person, but you get in front of them and they just don't smell right. And that's nobody's fault.
I actually did go on a date with a man who smelled horrible. He didn't smell dirty or anything. He just wore this horrific cologne and it smelled like he had bathed in it. Speaking of the parasocial part, my first date out of my marriage was a young man who I met on OkCupid. I did everything wrong. I basically put all my cards on the table, immediately friended him on Facebook.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was dumb. It was my first date since
Right. You didn't know any better.
since I'd been divorced. I was thinking, oh, this is how I would approach a high school relationship because that was really the last time I dated. I was like, oh, this is going to be so great. I'm just going to move from my marriage to this is my next husband. I don't have to date.
Right.
I don't have to do any of this stuff. Let's just get it all locked and loaded. And he was very down to clown. Then when we actually met in person, immediately within seconds, I knew that I couldn't date this guy because he had ridden a bike to the date.
Very Austin.
Yeah, but like, man, you're not 20. You can't be riding a bike to a date and in the middle of summer. So he was really sweaty.
Mm-hmm.
And then his card got declined when he was trying to get a cup of coffee.
That's rough. To those of you who are thinking, I don't have any money, don't I deserve love and relationships? Yes, but you need to get your act at least somewhat together to invite another person into your life. You have to have some sort of a life to put someone in it.
I think if you're going to ask someone on a date, you at least need to be able to afford a cup of coffee.
Yeah, with extra money to spare.
You could even splurge for a croissant.
Speaking of bad news, a friend of mine who is a person who uses a wheelchair, she is very lovely. She's a plus size and proud hottie. And she got a guy on an online dating app saying, oh, my princess, my angel. And he was very into the fact that she was in a wheelchair, very sexualized it. And she's like, okay, whatever. And he said, I also have a huge foot fetish and she has no feet. And so she was like, hey, bad news. Do you have a knee fetish? Because that's what I got.
You just reminded me of a man that I had talked to briefly as a single person. So my first apartment out of my marriage was kind of a quickie. I was trying to find something quick. My marriage did not end in a timeline that I was planning on. And so I just tried to find the first thing. And it was basically 4 or 5 stories with no elevator. So you got to take the stairs. I remember talking to a hottie on the internet. He said, well, let's meet virtually before we meet in person. I was like, that's weird. Okay, fine. We're talking. And he was in a wheelchair. And he said, what would you do if I came over now? You know, like they try to say sexy, flirty things.
Right.
And I said, buddy, you couldn't make it into my apartment. Good luck.
I would chat to you, I guess, in the parking lot. And I would go back upstairs.
It would be like a Rapunzel situation because you're not going to get up the 4 flights of stairs to get into my ratty apartment.
In my ratty, recently divorced lady apartment. I was close friends with a sex worker. We would talk about people we were dating. I did have a guy who really led with foot fetish stuff. And he was like, if you're brave enough, you'll let me worship your feet. And like he was daring me or negging me into doing something. And my friend was like, he's just trying to get sex work for free. That costs $300 and he knows that.
Right. You think it's a compliment. It's really just trying to milk you for something that he should be paying for.
And I think that a lot of men, unfortunately, they do think of apps as free sex work, which is why they treat the women on the apps the way they do.
And I remember you telling me your ex-boyfriend, which this probably should have been a red flag, he saw it that way. He thought, oh, well, this is just sex on tap.
This is just for me to pick from. Many times women would get out of marriages or serious relationships and then be excited. Oh, all these guys are writing me all this sexy stuff. Many of them don't even want to meet you. They just want to have a sex chat.
They're doing this under the blanket with their wife next to them. This isn't going to be anything. And I remember, especially when the more plus sized I've been in my dating life, it's just a lot of fat fetish. And I didn't love that. I remember when I was super pregnant and single, my friend was like, oh, well, let's see if we can find somebody who wants to date a pregnant woman.
But there is a fetish for that. But then you're somebody's fetish.
Well, exactly. So she cracked open the Craigslist.
Oh my God.
It was wild how many men were seeking that. I don't want to be an object. It's just this weird thing where I don't want to be objectified. I want to be treated like a person.
It is a hard thing as dating as a fat woman because you want someone who is at the very base level, like accepting you being fat. And you think, oh, it'd be great if they really love my being
like appreciate, maybe you appreciate it.
Right. I appreciate this body type. But then you get people on the other side who are fetishizing it. I don't want that. Why can't you treat me like a person? And that's the hardest thing of all.
Because I don't want to be objectified at the end of the day.
An interesting phenomenon, speaking of Tinder being specifically like a meat market, men will tell women, well, Tinder's a hookup app, Hinge is a hookup app. And that annoys me because it is only a way to connect people.
And in my experience, it is not at all a hookup app. I
No.
have never hooked up with anyone on Tinder.
But men will say that, men will have the idea of that. And when I was on OkCupid and Tinder, sometimes I would talk to the same man on both apps and they would treat me differently. They would talk differently. Where OkCupid was the aw shucks, maybe you like to go to a hoedown, and Tinder was like, let's bed down in this bathroom. I'm the same person. I'm looking for the same things.
That's why I like Tinder, because if you're going to be super disgusting, I know right away. I want to know right up front. I remember I had a client in the past who was a man and he was talking about dating women on the internet and how hard it was. And I said, really? How many women have asked you if they can put their mouth on your butt? And
How many women?
He said none.
Right. 0 women. The first problem with Tinder, I think, was the thing where men started figuring out if they just liked everybody, then they would just sort down to the women who liked them. And then
defeats the purpose.
It's cheating, whatever. It defeats the purpose because then women think, well, we've already passed that first hurdle, but then they're filtering starting with a match.
It's like the gamefication thing of, do you want to make out with this?
But my favorite Tinder story, there's a comedian in LA, Alison Stevenson. She did that where she said yes to every single guy on Tinder, just swipe, 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 swipe. So she had thousands of matches because a lot of guys were doing the same thing. And then she started getting reported because she wasn't writing back to the guys.
That's your job. You're a woman. You need to be responding to any man who's interested in you.
If we've matched, you pretty much owe me not only a message back, but sex right away. And her Tinder privileges were revoked. She was permanently banned because she was liking everybody. And she's my hero for that.
Why did she match with everyone?
She just wanted to see what would happen. She was aware that men were doing it. And she was like, well, the two can play that game, jerky.
It was a social experiment.
It was a hilarious social experiment. But men felt that they were owed something because they got that match. The first thing that doesn't work about Tinder is that you make a match, you're excited, you have this talking phase, assuming you both pass, whatever that is for you. By the time you go on a first date, each of you has acquired a deep roster of matches that every single one of those people is more exciting than you are.
It just looks like you have plenty of options that are out there. So everyone feels like nothing. You don't feel like a real person.
There's no reason for me to commit or engage or get to know you because there's a lineup down the street of people who want to go on a date with me. Another weird thing about dating apps is there's an app exhaustion and there's a cycle people go through where they delete the app and then put it back on. The longer people have been on dating apps, the less energy they will expend on conversation. When someone just gets on an app, you can almost sense it because they write, hey, I really like your picture. I see that you've been to Guatemala. I spent the summer there as a child, but 6 months later, they just go, hi. What am I supposed to do with hi?
And I've heard a lot of women say, well, that's a red flag for me. If somebody just says hi, I don't see it that way. I think of it as a dangler I've put in the water. I'm trying to see if the fish wants to bite because I've written 8,000 of these intro messages and I'm exhausted.
Or another quote unquote red flag is I would get a very stock response from someone or a very stock opening.
Yes.
I can smell that this is canned.
Yeah, you've said this 40 times. It's a quirky, witty, very succinct little message.
Interesting facts about Tinder. There's a study in 2019 that the individual will feel a higher urgency to commit to someone when your phone battery level is low. This feels very New York to me.
Oh my God.
I got to get home. I got to get to somebody's house because I got to plug my phone in.
Studies show that if you're at a bar at the end of the night, even women that you've been looking at all night long will suddenly seem a lot more attractive.
Not only have you been drinking, but these are the options.
I have 20 minutes until last call. Who is going to be willing to go home with me in the next 40 minutes? That's maybe not as gross as I was thinking she was earlier.
The pluses of Tinder, you know someone's interested in dating. We've talked about that. You can meet someone out of your friend circle. But that's also a minus because when you're meeting someone who doesn't know anyone you know, there's no impetus to treat them in any particular way. If I'm on a blind date that your friend has set me up on with her friend, and you treat me like absolute baked garbage, you talk mean to me and you stick me with the bill and you abandon me at the restaurant, she's going to hear about it. There's going to be some social cost to treating someone poorly.
Well, hopefully.
But if I'm someone from an app, I'm barely a real person. You can talk to me however you want. You can treat me however you want. there's not going to be any comeuppance.
Aziz Ansari wrote a book, and I know he's sus, but one thing that I really did like about the book is he was talking about the fact that if you look at marriage records from 200 years ago or 100 years ago, everybody married someone within a 5-block radius of their home. His big thing was, if you get on a dating app, the net is so much wider. I have found with the last at least 3 guys that I've dated seriously, I never, ever would have met them if I hadn't been on the app. And is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? I'm not sure.
It's just a thing. Things that make dating hard, everybody has talked about this. The profitability of the dating world means that the apps do not benefit from making you a partner. They benefit from keeping you swiping.
They benefit from the rat and the heroin water effect.
The dopamine rush. When I was on Tinder and started thinking about getting serious about someone, I had to mourn leaving the apps because, one, it's a dopamine rush to be admired by a stranger. It's a dopamine rush to make that match. They implant in you this idea that there's someone always better around the corner. OkCupid for a while was doing something really weird where it would use Bluetooth and signal to me that someone who was a good match, quote unquote, for me was within spitting distance, but I would be on a date with someone else. This is not the move. This is rude. I am already on a date with someone. You cannot encourage me to go on a date with someone else.
I want to reference the rat heroin thing. The study was called Rat Park, and it was a series of studies in drug addiction conducted in the late 70s. At the time of the studies, research explored the self-administration of morphine in animals. Okay, carry on.
So you have the paradox of choice, the fantasy that there's an infinite number of people, that you're just going to fall into something that even as great as the person you're dating now is, there's going to be somebody who's even better and who's going to tick all your boxes. We've talked about this before, the fantasy that there's going to be a match where a relationship is completely easy.
But I think this idea of infinite match is especially appealing to people with an avoidant attachment style. That's not appealing to me at all. The thing you're talking about, this thing that you're saying, oh, there's other options that could even be better, that has never been appealing or interesting or a motivation for me at all. We're all different.
All the apps profit by dating as a commodity. They sell you the idea of a relationship. They have no vested interest in seeing you be partnered.
They would rather you not be partnered. They want you to be rat morphining.
One of the real cons of online dating is decreased self-esteem. Everybody thinks that they know what their
street value,
what their street value is. And then when you get strangers judging you, you find, oh, it's a little lower than I thought. I don't think anybody's ever gone on an app and said, oh, I'm actually a little more valuable on the market.
I'm way hotter than I ever thought I was.
Right. To your point, and to Aziz Ansari's point, Pew Research study found that 28% of straight people and 52% of LGBTQ Americans have used dating apps or sites, a third of straight people, over half of queer people. But only 9% of straight adults and 20% of LGBTQ adults reported meeting a match online.
Is that real?
30% of people participating, 10% of people get a real relationship. Those are terrible odds.
Those are pancreatic cancer survival odds.
Right. Another piece of trivia that I came up on, Manchester, New Hampshire is the catfish capital of the world.
What? Why?
For whatever reason, highest number of reported catfish cases.
Is everybody in Manchester
are they
Huggo or something?
I don't know. A friend of mine on a ladies' chat that I am part of offers a service where if you meet with someone and they seem like they're too hot, she will reverse look up their photo, and she's good. She's very good.
Can I get her full name and phone number, please?
Someone would be in Pig Snout, Idaho on the road, and they would say, holy cow, I just matched with this guy. And she would look it up and say, yeah, he's a professional rugby player from England. He's not in Idaho.
What about this Russian model in Dog Snot, New Hampshire?
A couple articles I found feel like dating apps have ruined dating, that it has actually killed romance on both sides, and people don't know what to do about it. How do we get out of this model that we've all been trained into?
Because for me, a dating app seems super weird. I'm an old lady, so I've grown accustomed to it. But to me, that's not what dating looks like naturally. I think about millennials and Gen Z kids. This is all they've ever known.
Since they've been born, their parents may have met on a dating app. This is just how you meet people. And yet it's how you meet people, but you don't keep people.
And I think there's a lot of other factors involved too, just with single people right now.
Dating apps are also unsafe for women.
Well,
Yeah,
why?
shocking.
They fall down a lot more when they're on a dating
Right. Because
app.
you're like swiping, you're not looking, you walk into the street.
Exactly.
For any young women who are listening to us talk, first date is always meet in public. My God, I hear
Yeah.
about people
Don't go
going.
anywhere near
Don't-
somebody's home until you've had at least 3 dates or 4
Right.
dates.
I had set the boundary of I don't give out my phone number because I had been stalked, I had been harassed. And what's interesting about that is that some men would really react badly.
Yes.
I thought, well, if they have trouble with this easy boundary, I'm not going to be able to set any boundaries with them.
As you know, I'm writing a book called Don't Date Dirtbags, out sometime
Sometime in the future.
sometime in the future. But I wrote a whole chapter about this thing of boundaries. And I remember meeting this guy on the internet who I'm pretty sure was a catfish. He was model handsome.
You develop a sixth sense, especially if they're very enthusiastic. You're like, okay, I can talk to a 10, but a 10 does not talk to me this way.
10s are not that into what I've got going on, but he was more like an 11, and all of his photos look like professional photos just for fun. I just kept texting him. He was very insistent that we had to have a phone call first before the date. So he needed my phone number. And I said, well, I don't give out my phone number until I've looked you in the eyes. Because also, if you have my cell phone number, you can find out where I live.
You have access to a lot of information.
Because this cell phone number that I currently have, I've had since I was 19. This has got a lot of my history on it. I don't want to get a new number after I've had one for this long because I went on 0 dates with an idiot. Oh, well, everybody knows that you have to talk on the phone first before you meet someone. You'd have to be a fool to not know that. So I'm like, okay, well, we're going to unmatch.
We're done now. It was interesting because some people did ask me to talk on the phone first, and I always said no.
We can talk on the app. That's why the app is here.
We can talk on the app, and if you want to talk to me, meet me in person. We can just do a coffee. It doesn't have to be any big deal. I think it's just that if you do know someone in life, you have to get over your fear of rejection and your fear of being made a fool of and ask them out, because matching with them on the app, you're just going to burn your time and burn your energy.
I would say be really selective no matter what you do. That's what Don't Date Dirtbags, my upcoming book.
I love that we're
going to be all about
this.
It does exist. I've written several chapters. I'm not done, but it will exist. I've made the cover art.
Start writing us at hello@mysister's if you would like to buy Laura's book, or if you want to be on a list.
Yeah, if you want to be in the pre-sale category, yes, that's the stuff. Check us out at hello@mysisterstherapist.com. I've been writing this book for a while, several years, but it's much closer to getting finished than it's ever been. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. My advice to women, because that's who the book is for, is to just be really selective, be incredibly firm with your boundaries, be honest with yourself. I just got finished watching the latest season of Love is Blind. What I notice consistently is women will have a boundary and then they allow, for whatever reason, they allow the other person to cross it.
Mhm.
You know, they'll say, this thing is not okay with me, and then the person will do it and they'll go, oh, but he was so nice, he was so cute.
Oh, but he's from my hometown and he likes to bake brownies, so I'm going to tolerate just whatever
Garbage comes out of his mouth.
Garbage comes out of his mouth, whatever boundary I've set, he just walks right over. There's a certain kind of man who will cross your boundaries on purpose because he wants to know.
Oftentimes it's a test.
Yeah.
Right.
He's
I'm
testing to see, I want to find the hottest woman who will put up with the most crap.
I'm going to try to get the most bang for my buck. Ultimately, what it comes down to is being honest with yourself about what you're willing to tolerate and only tolerating that. I don't think that the apps are the problem. I mean, I think the apps are part of the problem, but I don't think they're the only problem. The problem ultimately, I think, is that many men don't have basic respect for women. If I think of you as less than me, if I think of myself as the main character, whether I'm on an app or I'm seeing you at the grocery store or met you at a bat mitzvah, it's going to be the same. If I don't have basic respect for you as a human, if I don't think of you as my peer, then I'm not going to treat you particularly well.
All of the problems that we've seen coming from apps, ghosting and breadcrumbing and zombies and people appearing and disappearing and reappearing, these are all new problems. They're all modern problems because you couldn't treat someone that way.
Well, yeah, when you're in a medieval village, I'm going to see you at the well tomorrow. So you better be nice.
When any human is put in a scenario where there is no advantage to treating someone well and there's no disadvantage to treating them badly, there is the temptation to do just that.
There isn't a temptation for me to do that. I don't understand why that's a temptation for anyone.
I love treating people badly.
I don't. Because I have empathy.
Right.
And I think the problem also is that a lot of men don't have a lot of basic social skills. This high on the apps, that's because that's his best.
Right.
Sometimes, not always, but oftentimes it's like, oh, I didn't realize I had to learn how to make conversation. I didn't realize that I had to peacock in my photos and not take a picture on the toilet at my grandmother's house.
Right. Looking angry.
Exactly. I feel like no matter what you do, no matter what action you take or what route you take to dating, both parties have to be equally invested in the process. I've dated exclusively on Tinder for years and years, and I have found 3 or 4 decent relationships in that time.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible. It's not effortless, but it's possible. You just have to find people who want to treat you with basic respect and kindness.
My math was 50 first dates, just like the film, 1 boyfriend. I had to put 50 first dates into the bucket.
You got 10 years out of that. I mean, that's a long-term relationship.
Yeah. I guess I got 2 boyfriends.
You got 2 boyfriends and you had a series of short-term relationships. It wasn't one and dones.
It wasn't one of those, but the math was connect and go on dates with 50 people to get something kind of serious. The problem is now you've got a whole generation of men and women who sometimes want a longer relationship, who are looking for something, and they literally don't know how to do it because they don't have the training and they don't have any modeling. A joke in LA that is sadly true is there's these 50-year-old men who've never had a relationship. Oh, well, I'm playing the field. I'm sowing my wild oats. How many oats do you have left?
And why do you have to? I know this is going to be a shock to you, Virginia, but I have had intercourse with people.
No.
Yes, it's true. And I just feel like having random sex with a stranger is not that interesting to me.
Statistically, it is not that interesting to straight women because while straight men will almost always achieve orgasm having sex with a stranger, straight women, there's usually a learning curve.
But also, there's very little appeal to me of just slapping bodies with another person. That's not interesting to me at all.
That's what happens when bodies start slapping from doing the wild thing. But yeah, so half of women report having an orgasm from a one night stand. So half of women are just like, well, maybe it'll lead to something. I don't know. Maybe next time.
Well, I hope I enjoy this permanent STD that I've picked up.
And that's part of why, in my belief, it's harder for straight women to date cis straight men because we do have the threat of not just STDs, but pregnancy. Our wins of orgasms are low and our costs are higher. Laura, what are your last thoughts about how have dating apps ruined dating?
In closing, I feel like the internet has ruined dating. I think that this sense of limitless options, I feel like Instagram has ruined dating. I have so many girlfriends whose husbands are swiping on women on Instagram. And I think being able to really augment your personal photos is part of the problem. There's so many layers to this. I think that dating apps are one of the usual suspects, but I don't think they're the only part of the problem. I think it's social media. I think it's men's inherent beliefs about women. I think it's also women changing their motivations as time has gone on. I think women having more freedom and more ability to have lives without men. I think that has put a damper on dating. I don't think it's just the apps. I think it's the apps and other stuff too.
Yeah, for sure. Many men with parasocial relationships with women who have this idealized image that, of course, they're attractive women, but they're putting forth an image, and I do it too, that is not really what I look like in day-to-day life.
Pro tip, the way that I spell it out for my clients who are dating, you want to have your photo look like the outside of the cereal box where you've got
objects are increased in size to show texture.
Exactly. That is the best version of that cereal. Yeah. When you pull the cereal out of the bag, it's going to be a more dehydrated, maybe not as great version, but you can recognize it.
Yeah, it's still Cheerios.
This is what's on the outside of the box, right?
Right.
Pretty much the same. To me, that's the hashtag goal of your selfies on dating apps.
That's a good analogy.
Virginia, what are your final thoughts on this topic?
I think that dating apps, the fantasy that they sell us that dating is easy and fast and fun, but it can be a little junk foody. There's not a lot of there.
Yeah, there's not a lot of substance.
And of course, there's exceptions that prove the rule. Lots of people have married people they've met on dating apps, but statistically, it's not the case. Mostly dating apps are a bad deal for men and women.
They're a time suck.
They're a time suck no matter what your gender, no matter what your orientation. I think we got to get back to the wild. I think we got to get to hitting on people at grocery stores, just like God intended.
But I also feel like because of the economy today, it's just not practical for young people to be out in them streets drinking $15 cocktails. It's just
Right.
not as easy. I think that we have become, as a society, a lot more socially isolated. That's what I mean about this being a multi-layered problem.
There's a lack of third spaces, is what you're saying.
Right. There's a lack of third spaces. We don't have this sort of social connectivity that we used to. We don't have as many close friends. There's just a lot of things that make it hard to date in the wild. What are you supposed to go to a grocery store and just hang out in an aisle and hope that a handsome gentleman will approach you? I don't know.
My hot tip is, because I'm tall, I hang out at the men's tall shoe store or the big and tall clothing store and just watch who has a ring.
Show me your hands.
Shopping for shoes. Do you need help? You getting some pants today? What's your inseam?
Influencer Shira7 suggests when you're trying to find a man, really specifically a sugar daddy, you need to go to the richest areas of town and go to those restaurants, bars, and golf courses.
Rich people hang out where rich people hang out. You're never going to run into Brad Pitt at a McDonald's.
I might meet Brad Pitt at the Malibu McDonald's. He's got a lot of kids.
The last couple of days, BuzzFeed's really been on a tear with me and sending me, these are things that the smartest people in the world do. These are things that the smartest people in the blah, blah, blah. How to tell if you're the smartest person in the world. I'm like, I think the smartest people in the world are for sure not reading BuzzFeed articles.
I don't know. You never know. I think probably Einstein, if he were alive in this time, would be reading BuzzFeed articles.
Hey, Einstein, what did you do today? Oh, I took a very good quiz and it says I'm more of a beach girl.
Hey, Thomas Edison, what have you been up to?
Oh, there's something called Seinfeld and I'm a real Elaine. Laura, where can people find you on the internet should they wish to do so?
Well, they can find me at lauraryan.org. They can find me on my TikTok account. I am Laura Ryan. If they're interested in the show, they can find the show on Instagram, My Sister's a Therapist. They can also go to our website, mysistersatherapist.com. And if they're interested in contacting us to give us lots of money, they can do that through Hire Us at mysistersatherapist.com. Virginia, how can people find out more about your stand-up comedy career?
Thank you for asking. You know, I keep a calendar of all my upcoming comedy dates at www.bedinia.com. You can also find me on TikTok at Bedinia, Instagram, much the same. What are you laughing at?
My wife just sent me an article called Staying Safe at the Glory Hole.
It's important for everybody.
Concern for me. So I'm really, really glad.
This is well timed.
Look at this.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
Laura, now is the part of the podcast where you read a review from a listener. Do you have one this week?
I most certainly do. This one is from Nubian Lioness. The title is Weekly Dose of Wisdom and Laughter. Laura and Virginia are sharp, insightful, and funny as all get out. They tackle serious issues with the perfect balance of warmth and wit. Whether you're looking for solid advice or just a good chuckle, this show has it all. Every episode makes me reflect on my own life, and I learn something new each week. Thank you, Nubian Lioness.
Thank you, Nubian Lioness. In closing, we would like to call upon the words of
the immortal and timeless.
The timeless Billy Ray Valentine Capricorn.
We can make it, baby.
Me and you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.